Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen nabiyyina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our Fiqh Hour. As I mentioned yesterday, I had a arranged engagement that I had to attend, and as a result, there was no Fiqh Hour yesterday, but alhamdulillah, we are back today. So please feel free to put your questions out there so we can answer them, inshallah. And we were just discussing with colleagues about the zakatul fitr, yani the sadaqatul fitr, what price that we need to set for the UK. So we should have that, inshallah, shortly as well. So whilst people join the live feeds, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or on Instagram, I'll just via our Markaz al-Ifta wal Qadha. So the first question is, which is not there for some reason. Where's it gone? There you go. So the question that we had is, Hajj this year requires you to fill out an application on the Nusuk website. Choose your packages and then top up your e-wallet so that when the packages are released, these can be selected. It is Allah's will, whatever happens, inshallah. I pray all those seeking to go for Hajj are accepted and Allah makes the process easy for all. A Hajj package could cost 10 to 13,000 pounds based on 5 to 10% increase from last year. If I go ahead and top up the e-wallet, do I have to give zakat on this money? Do you think it's best to, as essentially the money has been put towards this service, but the service is pending and selection is not guaranteed? Do you suggest we take out zakat for the funds put towards Hajj? So if we do get selected, that money wouldn't be paid towards zakat. And if, na'udhu billah, we aren't selected, we can then give this money as zakat as intended to the relevant charity. Can you please expand on this and help explain what the right thing would be to do? Can you also advise on what reliable organizations I can approach for support with the Hajj process? Okay, so with regards to this question, then as the payment has not been requested and this is not an outstanding debt for which you have to pay the money, then that money is still money which you own. And because it is money that you own, you are the malika. As a sister who's put the question forward, you are the malika. Therefore, you are required there to give zakat. So zakat would be due upon it, the total value, including any other savings that you have and investments that you have and any money in your current account, any cash that you have, any gold, any silver, all that will be added up and you will give zakat accordingly. With regards to a reliable organization that you can approach for support with the Hajj process, I'm not sure what that means. Are you asking about the ritual acts that need to be performed during Hajj? If you could please elaborate on that, then inshallah we will be able to assist you further. So that's that question. Before we tackle some of the questions which have come on the gents group, let's pick up a question that's come through here now on our YouTube. Are there any parameters when writing and reading poetry? It really depends for what purpose one is reading and writing poetry. The maqsad of poetry is predominantly to understand the Arabic grammar and also the Arabic vocabulary, how it can be used in order to see that it can be used in a, euphemistically, it can be used figuratively, it can be used literally, and therefore you also learn these kind of language mechanisms and language techniques. So therefore you would find that poetry became a subject of study. Arabic poetry, for example, in particular, when people were studying to become experts in the Quran and in the Hadith. So this was something that people studied. So in reality, you have to look at what the purpose is for that. here, for example, if you're studying it in the English language, then what is the niyyah for studying it, say, in the English language? What are you hoping to achieve? Are you is the intention that you will use it then to write couplets of poetry in order to defend Islam, or in order to send salutations and praise upon the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam? What would the purpose be? If the purpose is a pursuit in itself, in that you just like poetry, you like the scenario, then that's a different thing altogether. My question, Ahmed, you never asked a question. All it says on here is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and that's it. And then you didn't type a question. Hence the reason why I haven't answered your question, because there's no question there to answer. So maybe there is a problem with your feed. Maybe there's a problem with my feed, but I've got so far Junaid giving salam, who's missed the lam out again after the alif. Assalamu is salam. Remember, I explained this in great detail a few days back. Then Haruna said Assalamu alaikum. And then Ahmad has said Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Then Junaid has asked his question. And then Ahmad says my question, triple question mark. So that's all that I can see in front of me on the screen. So clearly your question has not come through. Whilst your question is coming through, we can now turn our attention to the marq wal qadha, where some questions have come. So, where are we there? Assalamu alaikum, Mufti Saab. Please confirm the Sadaqatul Fitr amount for this year. Jazakumullah khairan. Tayyib. As I was saying, we are going to finalize that for you, inshallah, by tomorrow, hopefully. So tomorrow, inshallah, I will aim to give a Zakatul Fitr price. Okay, I'm going to write it down here so I don't forget. I have a rough value already, but I need to just get some consensus with my fellow scholars, and then inshallah I will share that with you. Okay. Next question. Assalamu alaikum. I have a question regarding doing business using the mudaraba model. Person A is providing the money and person B is doing all of the work, buying and selling goods. They are working on a 50-50 profit sharing agreement. What is the easiest and Sharia compliant way to structure this agreement and split the profits? Would it be permissible to work for a year and then split the profit 50-50? What if person B needs to use the profits to help with his household bills? How is zakat to be given on such a setup? The way you would split it is what is convenient for the two party members. So usually you see a person may give £5,000. You mentioned a person A is giving the money. So person A is going to give a finite amount of money. The person A is not just going to give an infinite amount of money. So you may say, I'm going to give you 5 grand. I'm going to give you 10 grand. I'm going to give you 50 grand. I'm going to give you 100 grand. So then that person B, is now doing the work, in this case, buying and selling goods. So therefore, when that 100 grand or 50 grand or 10 grand has been used in purchasing stuff, and then it has been, the stuff has been sold, then that's when you will generate a profit. Okay. And that's how you will then split that 50-50. So it is a finite piece of work. That is the easiest and best way to do it. So you might say that I'm going to give per month £3,000. At the end of the month, obviously that £3,000, all the stock should be bought and all the stock should be sold within that month. So that gives you ample time. Let's just say it normally takes 2 weeks to do that, but you've given the person ample time in case there's some delays. Then at the end of that bit of sale that's done, let's just say you give him £5,000. He buys, I don't know, just make something up, mobile phones, and he sells mobile phones. So he buys £5,000 worth of mobile phones. He sells those £5,000 worth of mobile phones, but he's obviously going to sell them for a profit. So he sells them and he makes a total of £6,500, or say £7,000. Let's go for £7,000. It's a nice, easy number to remember. So now that he's made £7,000, now obviously the original £5,000 is the person's. And therefore, what a person does now, you would split the profits 50-50. Another way to do it would be that I'm going to continuously put money into the thing, but there has to be an agreement as to how much money, you see, because that, if a person is going to be putting in, I don't know, 100 hours, then, what if it happens that that person doesn't work for 4 weeks because he's ill? Does that mean that the person puts more money in? So, there has to be some kind of agreement in place in order to do that. Okay. So there has to be a little bit of structure on what's being happened. This is a very simplistic way it's described, and I get the feeling that maybe the person hasn't actually done mudaraba ever, and he's never traded ever in this way, because by now they should know that I'm going to be putting in this amount of money, this is what we're buying, this is what we're selling, and the mechanisms of how it's going to work. So I hope that makes sense. In terms of zakat, zakat is given by the owner of the wealth. So the one who's got £5,000 invested, which has now become £5,000 of stock, okay, then when that stock is sold and the profit, so let's just say he buys 1,000 items and he sells 100 items, then from that 100 items they generate certain funds, then that is split 50-50. So that is upon which the buyer, the person A and the person B are going to give on their own share their zakat. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Next question, must the niyyah of a qadha, or actually there's one question that's come up on the YouTube, so let's pick that one up. How does one make sure a ruqyah is effective? Well, it's pretty easy to see if ruqyah is effective, because you'll see the effect of ruqyah on the person. So that's the way you determine whether it's effective or not, in that you're starting to see some impact on the person. If you're seeing no impact on the person, then you've got to be trying a different ruqyah, because it might be that particular ruqyah is having no effect. Similarly, it might mean that this person is not being impacted by the ruqyah itself. There could be a number of other reasons. So a simple answer is, how do you know if the ruqyah is effective? You will start to see a change in the person that you are reciting the ruqyah over, or obviously if you're reciting it over yourself, you'll start to see the change on yourself, whether it be a ruqyah for health benefits or whatever. Must the niyyah of a qadha or kaffara be made overnight, but if done after the start of true dawn, which is also the start of the Islamic day, these siyam would only be regarded as a nafil? Yes, the niyyah of a qadha or a kaffara should be made after maghrib and before fajr. Because if it's not made and a person does imsak then and decides to continue to fast, then that would become nafil. If the Shari Musafir makes niyyah of nafil fast during Ramadan, it would be effected as a fard of Ramadan. If a Shari Musafir makes niyyah of nafil fast during Ramadan, it would be effected as a fard of Ramadan. That's correct. However, if the traveler were to make niyyah of any wajib, such as qadha, nadhar, mutlaq, etc., it would only count as per his intention. Is this understanding correct? Yes, that understanding is correct as far as I can recollect from my memory. When someone makes an overnight intention during Ramadan to fast, but before true dawn retracts this intention, only to re-intend the fast before Islamic midday, will this final intention, what he has finally settled upon, be a valid intention for the fard fast? So the thing is, you cannot make an intention not to fast because you just eat if you're intending not to fast. So the fact that this person is not eating after Fajr seems to suggest that his niyyah is there, that he wants to fast. Otherwise, if you've got no intention of fasting, then you're going to eat straight away. Why would you avoid eating if you're not fasting? Why would you put yourself in hardship and difficulty if you're not fasting? So basically, if a person makes a niyyah to fast, and even though I don't know how you retract your niyyah, because you cannot make a non-niyyah inside your heart. You can't stand up for 4 rakat zuhr and say, I'm going to pray 4 rakat zuhr, and then inside your heart say, no, I'm not going to pray 4 rakat zuhr, and then say, Allahu Akbar. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. Why are you then going Allahu Akbar? Because when the Fajr time comes, and when Subh Sadiq comes rather, and after that Fajr time starts, and you're not eating, and after sunrise you're not eating, then you've started your fast, because a fast is not eating, and a non-fast is eating, and you are behaving as though you are fasting. So even though you've now retracted your niyyah, which it's not possible, and niyyah is a positive thing, not a negative thing, then the fast would be valid. Okay, hope that makes sense. So that covers those. I don't think we have any others that have come in. Um, mm, mm, mm. I don't think I had any on here. Let me just double check. Where is it? My other. There we are. Yeah. So alhamdulillah, we are in a good place. So that's all complete. So over to you, ladies and gentlemen. Any more queries or questions we have, inshallah? What is the exact if understanding of separating between minors? What is the exact understanding? I'm assuming that means the if is extra. What is the exact understanding of separating between minors at sleep time? Well, in predominantly, this is in reference to the actual place of sleeping, meaning the bed in actuality. However, we now understand obviously the fact that children in a lot of societies now are being sort of sexualized. They're being made aware of sexual identity, and they're being made aware of their sexual preferences, and they're being made aware that engaging with your physical body is nothing wrong with it. Okay, this you're just discovering yourself. And similarly, comparing yourself to your brother and your sister, there's nothing wrong in that. So because this kind of level of voyeurism or adventurism is being instilled in young children, and when those of us who are more traditional when it comes to raising children, that's now being kind of looked down upon, as though that's not appropriate, and we shouldn't be dictating to children how to behave, as in boys shouldn't always want, if they want to wear girls' clothes, we shouldn't be that firm upon them and say, well, you're a boy, you don't wear clothes like that. Or if boys want to wear colors which are more sort of linked to girls, we shouldn't say to them, oh, you can't wear a pink shirt because that's not appropriate. So because there's this kind of very assertive, and also this sexualization, unfortunately, which is going on. Furthermore, because of spread of pedophilia that you get on the internet, and where people are being asked to share pictures and things like that, then I would say that this should also include separating rooms as well, so that brothers and sisters shouldn't sleep in the same room together, but rather girls should sleep together and boys should sleep together. Obviously, if it's a situation where parents can't afford that, then they would have to try to instill those values in their children to the best of their ability and practically work with what they have. But if that is feasible and possible, then yes, they should make effort to also change their rooms as well. So where they sleep and where they're going to be alone for considerable length of time, it is kept by gender, meaning, depending on whether they're boys or whether they're girls. That would be the better understanding with present day situation and present day climate. Does one have to maintain strong kinship with nephews and nieces who do not reciprocate but actually work to undermine the relationship? In fact, that's what keeping blood ties is meant. In the hadith, it mentions that if people are good to you and you're good back to them, then that's not necessarily keeping blood ties, but rather that is kind of, tit for tat. That's like len then. That, oh, this person gives me salam, so I'm going to give them salam back. This person smiles at me, so I'm going to smile back at them. This person comes to the funeral of our dead, so we're going to go to the funeral of his dead. That's just lending, then. That's not keeping a blood tie. In fact, the Prophet Islam mentions that keeping a blood tie is when somebody else goes out of their way to break it, you go to reform it. That's maintaining a blood tie. So, yes, one should keep kinship with nephews and nieces. I don't know what strong means, but obviously one should maintain blood ties. Now, it may be that, you're a type of family that doesn't necessarily ring each other every third or fourth day. Now, if that's the type of family that you are, then that doesn't mean that you have to ring them every other day. It might be that you're a family that sees your nieces and nephews maybe every 3-4 weeks or something, 5 weeks or something, 6 weeks. As long as you are, connecting and showing love and respect, then that's absolutely fine. Remember, this reciprocation we don't look at. Reciprocation is something we can claim from Allah on the Day of Judgment. We have to perform what is required from us. That is our side of things. And we only do that because Allah commands us to do that. So when Allah commands us to do that, we do that. And that's our whole purpose for doing it. Not because we're doing it for this person. So what we will do is Allah commands us and we do that. Now, Allah is also commanding this person to maintain good ties with their uncle or their auntie. This person is obviously refusing, but that's because they're refusing Allah. They're not refusing you. Sometimes what happens is when we're keeping ta'alluqat with people, we think that, they're doing bad to us. They're not, because in reality, what they're doing is they're disobeying Allah. So, and you're obeying Allah. So that's the difference. You obey Allah, they're disobeying Allah. So that doesn't mean that just someone is disobeying Allah, you also disobey Allah. That doesn't make sense. So what you should do is you should maintain that and keep that going. And it might be that, when they grow up, 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, they realize that, oh, this person kept good ties with me. This person kept good ties with me. And this uncle is actually not too bad. Sometimes you see, your nieces and nephews might be under the influence of your brother or your sister, and they might be sort of poisoning their minds and saying that, oh, your uncle is like this and your uncle is like that, or your auntie is like this and your auntie is like that. And the children naturally listen. But when the children grow up and move out, then they start to see the world through their own eyes rather than see the world through their parents' eyes. And then they start to think that actually, you know what? Mom and dad used to always say that uncles like this and aunties like that. But actually, now that I'm getting to know them, they're nothing like that whatsoever. Now, had you slammed that door shut when they were young, then you might have, that might have been a self-fulfilling prophecy that your brother or your sister might be telling their kids this, and you've behaved in that way exactly. So they think, yeah, mom used to say that, dad's like, uncle's like this, and that's exactly what it is. So bear that in mind when we maintain blood ties, when we keep blood ties. We're not keeping blood ties for the sake of that person. We're keeping blood ties because Allah's commanded us to keep blood ties. So we're doing it in obedience to Allah. Now, if that person is not obedient to Allah, that's their problem, not necessarily our problem. Okay. Now, obviously, there is a little bit to bear in mind in your case, because you are senior, they're your nieces and nephews, they're your junior. Sometimes, however, it's the other way around. It could be our uncle, and we find that our uncle is causing us pain or causing us harm. Then, obviously, we maintain a blood tie at a distance. This is sometimes people raise this issue that what if a father has abused his daughter? How does a daughter maintain her blood ties to her father now that he's abused her? So obviously, this is a general rule that's applied. In some cases, we have to take a more kind of specific approach, which takes into consideration the context that person finds himself in. It is not just a black and white world. Sometimes we apply the deen in a very simplistic way, in a black and white kind of way. It's not like that. The context is absolutely relevant, and that needs to be taken into consideration. Are we allowed to kill rodents and insects that are not necessarily harmful, but mainly a nuisance and a sore sight? Killing something shouldn't be taken lightly. Taking some thing's life, some creature's life, or anything for that matter, shouldn't be taken something as lightly. We should be as such that we don't cause harm to anything. That's why if you look, when we go into the state of ihram, which is a very pure state, a very heightened spiritual state, then we are clearly instructed not to harm anything. Why? Now, why is that considered as a heightened spiritual state, not to harm anything? Because we're not there to cause injury, to cause pain, to cause hardship for unnecessary reasons. Of course, if a creature is causing a nuisance, you got a huge rat in your kitchen and that's causing damage, then you have to take the necessary steps, because now this is impacting on your life. This is affecting you. Whereas if it's a creature that's more a nuisance, a fly that's flying into the room and flying around and it's just annoying you or something like that, or a spider in the corner of your room which isn't really doing anything apart from just crawling up and down your wall, then why would there be any need? If it's really annoying you, then maybe capture it and take it outside the house and leave it outside. Why be the cause of death and destruction to something when there's no need to? We know, for example, when the accounting takes place, then that accounting will be very serious. What we don't want is on Yawm al-Qiyamah to be taken to task for killing harmless creatures when all they were a nuisance to us and there were nothing else and nothing more than that. So that's how we should, treat everything around us. Everything should feel at peace and content when a Muslim is around, rather than be a state where there is great difficulty and everything feels threatened when a Muslim is around. Everything feels as though this person is going to cause pain and heartache and can be a cause of trouble. And this is something that we as a society need to reflect over as well when it comes to how we engage with wider society. We shouldn't be seen as a nuisance, as an eyesore, as a problem, as a headache. We should be seen as humans that are positive, that are changing society in a positive way, that are useful to have as our neighbors, that are useful to have as fellow citizens. Not that we should be perceived in that other way. Isn't there a precedent for masjids to have shorter recitations as to increase the volume of people attending the masjid, specifically to Ramadan Taraweeh? I tend to find the masjids are quite full when it comes to Ramadan Taraweeh. So I don't feel, I think there was a time during the summer months, which is now, we're leaving those behind, where, there was a zeal for people to still, we were breaking fast at 9:30 or 9:45 or 9:50. And then we were rushing to the masjid for 11 o'clock, and then we were praying Taraweeh till sort of 12:30, 12:40. And then obviously in my case, obviously I'd stop eating at 1:03 or something like that, 1:04. So literally, the only time I could eat was that, half an hour. Well, after you break your fast, you have a little bit of time. And then literally that half an hour just before suhood, the subah sadiq time. Only problem is that because it's only like a 3-4 hour spread, it's very difficult to eat at that time. So really in those circumstances, it would have been common sense to say, actually, what we're going to do here? We're going to shorten the prayer. So we finish in half an hour because it's unprecedented times. But you see, we have this kind of zealatic attitude sometimes where, oh no, that's wrong. And, we're going to go, because we just kind of feel, I don't know, this is maybe our own inferiority issue or lack of confidence, or feel that the people will vacate the masjids and all that kind of thing. Or we might be people of great taqwa, or we might sleep during the day and others, go to a job or work. So, and we become very impractical and we start to kind of look down upon and, I'm holier than thou attitude at those people who are struggling because they've got a day job, because they've got school, because they've got uni, because they've got something that they've got to do during the day. So we've lost that practical element. We know the Prophet ﷺ would shorten a fard prayer when he would hear a baby crying for the sake of the mother being put under trial. Now, a woman is not even, according to our school anyway, not even required to come to the masjid. And then especially a woman who's got a baby, and this is a fard salah. This is not sunnah muakkada, it's a fard salah. So as I said, we become a little bit kind of confused and have a lack of understanding of how the fiqh should be applied. Now, obviously, it doesn't really matter. Now, Isha is going to be sort of like 8 o'clock or something, I think. Maybe worst case, 8:30. I think Maghrib is about 6:15 for the first fast, if memory serves me well. So Isha will be 8:30. So what else are we going to do? We're better off spending that time in the masjid from 8 o'clock till 9:30, 10 o'clock. Then sat at home, what are we going to do? We're going to put the TV on. We're going to just gupshup. We're going to fall asleep. Are we really going to sit and recite the Quran? I doubt it. So therefore, now I don't think that's an issue. But yeah, I agree. When we were at the times where Subha Sadiq was 102 or something, Fajr start time was 102, 103, and Maghrib was 9:50, then of course it makes absolute sense to have done that. But like I said, unfortunately, sometimes sense goes out the window and we get this religious bravado to kind of like, I'm holier than thou, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do a khatam and this and that and the other. So I think there's got to be an element of sensibility. Hand-to-hand transfer of gold and receipt of payment is required. No, this is when you're transferring gold for money. Now I understand this is gold for the commodities mentioned in the hadith that are supplied or weighed or counted. Does this apply to every item that is counted or weighted at the time of sale? This is when it's gold for gold, or silver for silver, or salt for salt, or dates for dates, or wheat for wheat, or barley for barley. So the fuqaha are in disagreement with regards to what actually is the usul behind this. Some say it is items of thaman and food commodities. So, which makes sense: silver, gold, dates, salt, wheat, barley. Some say it is items which are weighed, and stored. Some say it is items which are sold by volume and stored. So the fuqaha differ as to what the principle is when they analyze these 6 items. Some say, a very literalist interpretation, like the Ibn Hazms and the Zahiris, that this is actually only specific to these 6 things. And why are you including other things? Surely the Prophet ﷺ could have added that list and made that list more than 6. Or the Prophet ﷺ could have said, and things like this at the end of the hadith. He didn't. He mentioned the 6 things, and that's where he stopped on those 6 things. So you find the people who take a more literalist approach to the scripture will say it only applies to these 6 things. So there's different opinions based on the fuqaha's interpretation, and also their approach in usul al-fiqh as to what and where these are applied in their understanding. So Facebook is a bit quiet today. Not many questions coming through here. Must be celebrating United's win over Luton or something like that. Allahu A'lam. And quiet on Instagram as well. It's all TikTok. It's all YouTube today. When is it permissible for a woman to trim her hair outside? When is it permissible for a woman to trim her hair outside coming out of ihram? Why does it have to be outside? I don't get what that means. It's the same. It's the same as for a chap. Okay. When the sa'i is done, then that, and I'm assuming you mean umrah. If you mean hajj, then other than ihram. Oh, I see. Okay, your structure of your question was grammatically confusing. When is permissible for a woman to trim her hair outside coming out of ihram? You mean except coming out of ihram? Goodness me, I didn't think it'd be an English lesson as well, but cello. So when is it permissible for a woman to trim her hair except when coming out of ihram? Maybe you were typing fast. Allahu Alam. I'll make that excuse for you. For beautification, okay. Well, as I understand it, a woman doesn't become more beautiful by trimming her hair, because she becomes more like a man. So, so the only time where we've seen some permissibility is if obviously her hair has split ends or something like that, and it is causing her a problem, or her hair is exceptionally long. Some women hair will reach the bottom of their back, sometimes to the back of their legs, and now it's proving difficult to manage, and she doesn't want to put her hair in plaits, and therefore look after it for that reason. Then there is some scope for it. I wouldn't call it beautification. I have not come across any scope for a woman trimming her hair for beautification purposes. All it has been mentioned is for practical purposes, because the times gone by, a woman was considered more beautiful the longer hair she had, because hair was a thing of beauty, which is why the hair comes under the aura, or the head comes under the aura, not just the hair. The reason why I corrected myself is because nowadays you see these more modern so-called hijabs, headscarves, in which the woman just covers her hair a bit like a turban. But according to the Muslim head covering, it's the head that needs to be covered, which includes the nape, and includes the ears, and includes the neck. The only thing which is left visible is the face. And as we know, the face is something which, because we know what wajh means when we're making wudu. And wajh, when we're making wudu, is described by the little ear thing, which I always forget, from that side of the face to the ear thing on that side of the face. And for the hairline, obviously, as you start to go bald, that keeps going further and further back. The hairline until the bottom of the chin. Okay, that bit, just that bit which dips over. That's the wajh. So arguably, this is not the wajh, this bit. And we know from the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said that the two parts which are not considered as awrah for a woman is the wajh and the hands. Okay. So therefore, a woman is not just covering her hair. I just wanted to correct myself there. A woman is covering her head and everything but her face. Khair. So back to the question about cutting hair. So a woman's hair is considered her beauty. In fact, you know, many women, as they start to age and they start to lose hair, they're not really happy about that they start to lose hair, because they say, oh, you know, when I was younger, I had longer hair and healthier hair, and now obviously my hair's falling out and it's getting more brittle and all the rest of it. So the only time, as I said, where a woman may require to trim her hair is when it is too long at the back. Obviously, there's different styles now. Women do layering their hair and making fringes and all the rest of it, but that's not right, because she's cutting her hair there, which is considerably lot less than the shoulder blade. So what we have is the shoulder blade is used as an area between the shoulder blade and the shoulder as no man's land or no woman's land. What we mean by that is a man can grow his hair up to his shoulders. Now we go into what's called no man's land. So no man's land is past the shoulders, because a man should not grow his hair past the shoulders. And a woman can trim her hair up to that shoulder blade, you know, the bit which sticks out behind the breastbone, up to there. So the bit in between is no man's, no woman's land. So there is a distinction drawn, because Islam is quite clear in ensuring that the two genders look different. Not only do they behave different, they look different and they dress different. Islam is very key in not having a unisex approach to the two genders or gender fluidity or anything like that. It is quite clear that there's a distinct gender which is called man, and there's a distinct gender which is called woman. That does not mean that it does not take into consideration what is called a khunsa, okay, which is a person that may have both genitalia, okay, or aspects of both genitalia. The Sharia is, you know, doesn't cut them out completely, because that biological entity exists, that human exists, referred to as a khuntha, and therefore it gives certain ahkam to that. But bar that which is an exception, it is quite clear that the man should dress in a certain way and the woman should dress in a certain way. And usually, when you have a huntha, it tends to be given the ahkam of a woman rather than the ahkam of a man. What about the shaping of eyebrows, thinning them, or removing the middle section to define the two from each other? Similarly, when it comes to the eyebrows, the plucking of the eyebrows, the shaping of the eyebrows, the thinning of the eyebrows, then the hadith are quite clear about it being forbidden, that one shouldn't do that. The ulama do give some scope of permissibility in the sense that if a woman has a excessively bushy eyebrows, sometimes you can get, as we age, as men or women, as we age, our eyebrows start to get bushier because everything starts to go wrong. So our DNA starts to tell the eyebrows to keep growing, keep growing, keep growing, and they don't know, that they should be stopping growing, whatever. So a woman may have that. If that is the case, then there's some scope for her, upon the advice, obviously, of a learned sister, alima, who can look at the eyebrows and she can say that, yes, yours are excessively bushy. Nowadays, everybody will say my eyebrows are excessively bushy, and there is some scope for that. With regards to the section in between the eyebrows, if hair grows here, again, the ulama have given some permissibility to say that, yes, directly above the bridge of the nose, there is some scope just to remove that little bit in order to separate them into two. There is some scope of permissibility there as well. However, I say that with telling people to be very careful, because I'm sure when you were young and you decided to cut your own hair in the mirror, trying to save some money, and then you cut it wrong here, then you have to cut it there, and then you cut there, and before you know it, you've shaved your whole head off, and then you go downstairs and your dad shouts at you. So it's a bit risky as soon as the blade comes out to start trimming around the eyebrows or anywhere, because there's a good chance of making an error. Is manscaping in? I can't see it because there's a. Let me just type something. Is manscaping in any form allowed? Removal of hair off the back. There's no ruling which prevents a man from, say, removing hair from his back. There is anything which makes him less manly. So, for example, I don't know, sometimes having a little bit hair on the chest makes a person more manly. So anything which is making him less manly may be something that's frowned upon. But if he has like an excessively hairy back, he looks like a silverback gorilla or something. And so there is some scope. But the thing is, how is he going to reach his back in order to remove that hair? The only place where the man cannot remove the hair is, again, the eyebrows and the beard, okay, the face. Other than that, he can remove the head on his hair. Obviously, he has to remove the hair from under his armpits. He has to remove the hair from around his genitalia. The rest, obviously, he has a choice. But the only advice, I guess, that exists is he shouldn't remove hair which is making him less masculine, which is making him feel more feminine, and oh, look at my smooth skin, and he's trying to go down that kind of understanding. That would be frowned upon as such. But there's nothing scripture wise that I can recollect which makes it impermissible to do so. The only impermissibility, like I said, is the hair on the face and the hair of the eyebrows, whereas the woman would also include the hair on her head in terms of shaving that or cutting that hair that all the way back. So, alhamdulillah, we're nearly to the end of our session. Got the last sort of few minutes. So, if there's people, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Hamza decides to join us now. Clearly, he's always late to class, mashallah. What's considered the beard? Oh, interesting question. So, the beard would, hopefully, what I have on my face is considered the beard. Okay. So, in a way, it's, I'll use the other side of the chin. You'll see, it comes across to your, the corner of your mouth, and then you go up to your ear, and I don't know, and you know, it comes down. So this is not your beard. This is your neck. This is your neck. Here, as it comes down along the jawbone, you'll feel a hard part where your jaw is connected to the side of your face, and then you get your hair coming down up to your lip. This goes beneath your chin. Mine naturally doesn't grow here, and then same on the other side. It'll come down. In terms of length, obviously, it's got to be at least a fistful, okay, and that fistful is from all directions. It's not that you know, this can be shaved down and you only keep your fistful here. Okay, it's got to be a fistful. Now mess my beard up. You know, it's got to be a fistful here. It's got to be a fistful there. You know, it's got to be a fistful down here. So there's got to be a fistful everywhere. This is part of the beard. Okay, a fistful from your face. Okay, from your face. No, you can't. That doesn't grow. You can't hold a fistful here. That's as long as it gets. Okay, the mind doesn't grow any longer than that. So obviously, it's not about, you know, I don't have to feed it. I don't have to water it and, you know, put fast grow or something. What it means is don't cut it less than that. Obviously, if this doesn't grow anymore, that it has to be everywhere. You know, fistful everywhere. Basically, that's the bare minimum. Some people don't get, you know, some people have a face, you know, especially Southeast Asians, Far Asians, Eastern Asians, even some within the Bengali community that, you know, little they have very sparse beards. Okay. Even some within the Pushtun communities have very sparse beards. That's not the case with me, obviously. And their beard just doesn't grow. Okay. It just sort of stays quite small. That's just the way it is. So can you keep mustache but trim it so it doesn't touch the upper lips? Yeah, in fact, I see a lot of people shaving the mustache, but I've not come across a tradition in which it mentions that the Prophet Islam shaved his mustache. Okay, the Prophet Islam would trim his mustache. Okay, he would trim it. So I've not come across it. And I see a lot of people shave their mustache completely right down to the skin. I've never come across that in hadith. What I have come across is the trimming most likely with the scissors. So all you do is you just trim it back, and obviously you avoid it going over your upper lip. So you just keep it there, and as it starts to grow, you can just cut it back. Obviously, for some people, it tickles them a little bit, so we'll keep it short. But like I said, I've not come across anything in which the Prophet ﷺ shaved it. So if you have hair growing up here, some people have hair growing all the way up here, then there's nothing wrong in shaving it if you've got hair growing up here, because this is your face. This is not your beard. How do you differentiate between the mustache and the beard? Well, the edges of your mouth, you know, the corners of your mouth, below it is your beard, and above it is your mustache. There. Sorry for opening my mouth at you, but if you go, you know, where you smile, and literally, if you basically made a cut from your mouth and made a cut from your mouth, then above it is a mustache, and beneath it is your beard. So this bit is your beard. Make sense? Like I said, Facebook very quiet today. No questions at all. Just watching with amazement with their popcorn, mashallah, munching away. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I quite like it as well. Thanks for that, Hamza. I quite like it as well. I went through a phase. You see, I came across many hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ used to encourage the Sahaba to dye their beards. Okay, many hadith. And similarly, obviously, he told Sayyidina Abu Bakr to dye his beard. And he would say that, we need to differentiate ourselves from the Jewish community, because the Jewish community would not dye their beards. They would let their beards go white as they're aged. Obviously, I've aged due to wisdom. Thank you. Getting some love hearts coming in. Alhamdulillah. I've got a couple of fans somewhere, mashallah. And whereas, so the Prophet Islam used to say, dye your beards. Okay. But I used to always see the ulama never used to dye their beards, which I always found quite fascinating, that as the ulama became more elderly, they didn't do it. So I made a pact with myself that I would do it. So alhamdulillah, for the in my 40s anyway, I said I would do it. So in all throughout my 40s, I would dye my beard. And then obviously I decided at a certain age that I'm not going to do it, because it is quite a commitment, but I wanted to act on the sunnah to do so. There's discussion as to whether the Prophet ﷺ dyed his beard. And when I kind of, if you gather all the hadith, then, and you get the nature of the hadith, you get the meaning of the hadith. And it seems, obviously, the Prophet had very little hair that went white, only on his sort of chin area here, and a little bit here, and a little bit there. And that's usually what goes white. When you start to go white, it goes here first, and here first, and then shoom, the whole beard goes white. I'm still fighting back. I've got some blacks, mashallah, there as well. So it's like 50-50 at the moment. It's just that the white are more powerful and they've all come up front, and the black are more humble and they've gone to the back. So hence it looks a little bit more heavy. But I think it's like 50-50. Okay, maybe 70-30. Who's counting anyway? And anyway, so that aside, what should a man use to dye his beard? Obviously, you can use dark brown, which is what I used to use. Rather than black. Black should be avoided. One shouldn't use black. And that would also apply to women as well, because that hadith is quite general when it speaks about dyeing the beard. So alhamdulillah. So that's how it is. So yeah, mashallah, I'm quite happy with my beard. I stroke it. I talk to it every now and then. Beard is obviously a sign of a man. It is one of the key signs of a man. In fact, when you move from boyhood to manhood, this is one of the things that is seen on a beard. So we shouldn't be shy of it. Alhamdulillah, we should continue to grow it. I have a short beard. How can I keep it looking clean? Well, surely a short beard is easy to keep clean, because there's no hair that you need to worry about. I'm assuming short beard is because you're relatively young and your beard is not growing out that fast. This, it will tangle. Hamza, everybody's young relatively to me, so that doesn't really help. So in the morning, best thing to do is to comb it or brush it, and then apply oil to it. If you think oil is too rich, then you can apply a wax to it or something, and it'll keep all your beard together. And there shouldn't be a problem. Obviously, as we have a habit. When I say we, I have a habit. I comb my beard with my hand, especially when I'm thinking, and sort of during the day, I'll just naturally do that. So very rarely do I have sort of tangled hair or something. So you'll just get used to it. You're a young boy yet, mashallah. You'll get used to it. How do you know if wax or oil is waterproof? Well, oil is waterproof, okay, but it's not waterproof to an extent that all your beard. Remember, the beard is not something you wash in wudu. Only that amount of beard. So my chin is here, okay. So my chin starts there. So only this bit I need to make sure I wash. Reason being is that's part of my wajh. This bit is outside of my face. So this bit I don't need to wash. This bit I just do khilal of. Okay. I bring a palm from underneath and do khilal of it. That's it. There's no requirement to wash the beard in wudu. And it's not that it's going to absolutely coat your hair that no water will reach it. So water will still get through. Okay, so there's and we know the Prophet ﷺ used to apply quite a lot of water, quite a lot of oil to his hair on his head, especially. Using gels or oil, you can apply either. The water still gets through. Remember, for wudu to be valid, only a quarter of the head needs to be done masa on. And that will come through to your scalp as well. As you do masa of your head, you will also be reaching your scalp. So that will still be valid with that. Right, we had a late resurgence because Hamza decided to join us, mashallah. So even though I thought I'd get early chutti today, that clearly did not happen. Khair, inshallah, we don't mind early chutti. So tomorrow, same time, folk, 7 p.m., inshallah, FiqHour will continue on usual. We have TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And share the channel with others, and also share the videos with others so others can benefit from it as well, inshallah. And just pick up this last question. Also, is masa of head or hair? As in, does the water have to go to scalp? No, head or hair. It's not, the scalp is not what's required. The only bit where skin is required to be washed is the face. Obviously, when it comes to ghusl, then all skin needs to be washed. But when it's wudu, then it is masa ala ras. It mentions masa ala ras, and obviously the hair is considered as the ras when you are making masa. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So inshallah, I think that brings an end to that. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.